Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here, and welcome to my attempt at Greek Gods 101. Now, I'm going to keep a lot of this short and sweet and just kind of give a basic overview, but if you do want a video in the future, or videos, plural, explaining each god in their own right, I will definitely be more than happy to do that. But for now, this will be a brief oversight of the Greek world. Now, to start this off right quick, Greek mythology has inspired art and literature for centuries, and people have never stopped believing in it. That is what makes it so beautiful to so many cultures around the world. While in most mythology realms and pantheons, there are literally hundreds of gods that are worshipped all the time in every aspect of life. Now, according to the Greek myth, the 12 most revered gods sit on top of Mount Olympus, and that is where they rule. Now, there are many, many, many other gods who all have very similar functions, but they all have different roles to play in this universe. One of my favorite examples is that, yes, we do have Hades, who is the god of the underworld, but then you also have Thanatos, who is the personification of death. And I think we all know why I like that description. Now, the Olympic family tree is actually quite in-depth and extremely confusing, because certain somebody could not keep anything in his pants whatsoever. But there is a little bit of a family history here. So first off, it does start with the rebellion. Kronos usurped his father Uranus and ruled with the Titans. Fearing a prophecy, he ate his own children. That is right, he ate his children. Now, what happened after that kind of shaped the entire Greek world. His wife Rhea hid Zeus, who later challenged his father and the Titans with his brothers Poseidon and Hades. After a 10-year war, they finally won. 10 years. Could you imagine? Only 10 years? Other mythologies have wars raging on for hundreds, but the Greeks managed to do it in 10. Then you have the home of Mount Olympus, which is where these 12 revered gods reside. After putting the Titans down in Tartarus and locking them away forever, hopefully, unless Hades decides to go on a rampage, now we have the Olympic pantheon. These 12 gods include Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, Artemis, Apollo, Hermes, Athena, Ares, Hephaestus, Aphrodite, and either, depending on who you talk to, Dionysus or Hestia. Now, the reason Hades is not on that list is because he is not allowed upstairs and is sanctioned to the underworld, and therefore does not get listed as living on Mount Olympus. For a breakdown, we have Zeus. Now, depending on where you go, there is quite a bit of crossover in most people's minds between Greek and Roman mythology. Lots of people say that they're just the same person called different names, but let me tell you right here, right now, those are two separate pantheons, and I don't care what anybody has to say, because of a lot of differences. And one of them, most notably, has to do with a certain feared somebody, but I will get to that pretty quick. First off, we have Zeus, god of the sky, king of the weather, judgment, and the gods. He is also the patron of rulers and judges, and also the one who could not keep it in his pants and has hundreds and hundreds of children. be it gods, demigods, or whatever you want to call it. He is the husband and brother of Hera. He was the king of the gods after overthrowing Kronos. Next, you have Hera, goddess of motherhood, queen of the gods, and marriage. She is Zeus's wife, as was previously just mentioned. She constantly punishes him for his lovers and his infidelity. What did I just say about not keeping it in his pants? And she remained pure and true to him, only mothering children with him and none of the other gods, which in the Greek world is somewhat of a feat, to be quite honest. Next, you have Poseidon, god of the sea, lord of water, horses, and earthquakes, patron of sailors and fishers, who, according to legend, is easily angered, and he lost patronage of Athens to Athena, so he sent a monster to attack it. Of course, there are tons and tons of different stories and mythology surrounding all of this. Then you have Hades. Now, Hades is one of those gods that, like I said, there's a huge difference between the Greek and the Roman versions. Hades and Pluto are not the same person at all. Hades was absolutely hated. He was feared. He was disliked by everybody. And Pluto was loved. Pluto was kind, according to Roman mythology, and was actually welcomed by most of the culture, unlike Hades, who was seen as a kidnapper, among many other things. Now, Hades is the god of the underworld, lord of death, earth, and treasures. He is the patron of the dying and miners. Interesting. And he resides in the underworld, isn't evil, but didn't let the dead escape justice. Although, according to, like I said, most myths, Hades is absolutely feared and hated for all of the things that he did to Persephone. Next, you have Ares, who, of course, is known as the god of war and the lord of warriors. He is a patron of warriors, athletes, and Sparta. And he is worshipped for war, but sometimes considered too bloodthirsty and extreme. On the same side, you then have his sister, Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom, handicrafts, and warfare as well. She's the patron of philosophers and Athens. According to tale, she sprung from Zeus's head after he ate her mother. Then you have Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty and sex. Of course, she is the patron of lovers, and she is born from Uranus in the sea. She was given Hephaestus as a husband, although I'm not really sure how you can be given somebody like him as a husband, and constantly cheats on him with Ares. I don't know if I feel bad for him or sorry for Ares. I'm not really sure which. Next up, you have Apollo, god of the sun, also the name of this little football, who will constantly not stop getting in my frames. He's the lord of light, music, and arts, patron of musicians, and is twin brother of Artemis, associated with knowledge as well, and the oracle of prophecy. Next up, you do have his sister Artemis, goddess of the moon, who our other cat was named after, who was sadly lost earlier this year. She's the lady of the hunt, night, and virginity. Patron of hunters and young women, she is a sworn virgin and protects young women's virtue and teaches them to be fierce warriors in their lives. Next up, you have Hephaestus, god of the forge, lord of fire and crafts, patron of craftsmen and cripples. Interesting combination. And Crippled, he forges the weapons of gods. Given Aphrodite by his mother Hera, their relationship is not successful. Next up, you have Hermes, god of messengers, lord of the messages, orderary and commerce, patron of messengers, merchants, and thieves. Quite an interesting combination. As you can see, lots of these people have many different talents. He is always on the move and loves playing tricks on others. Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, lady of plants, growth, gardeners, and farmers. Hades took her daughter, Persephone, as a wife for part of the year, winter, during which Demeter refuses to produce food in protest. Dionysus is a god of wine, lord of parties, and the patron of partiers. I don't think it could get much better than that. He is a popular god who has a questionable status as an Olympian. Now, the reason why he has a questionable status is because it is said that his father was actually human. Hestia is also on the list and is the goddess of the hearth, lady of home, domesticity, family, patron of servants and mothers. And she is one of Kronos' daughters. Her status as one of the 12 Olympians sometimes is replaced by Dionysus, depending on the stories and what you are reading. Once getting through all of that, and that is just scratching the surface. Like I said, if you want me to go into more in depth of each place, say all of the people who preside under Poseidon or Hades and that type of thing, I am more than willing to do that. I think it would be so much fun. Next, we move on to gender roles in Greek mythology. While many of the male gods represent forces of nature, many of the females represented feminine ideals like marriage, love, virginity, and domesticity. So while men were also very relevant thing in Greek mythology, so were women, and they were very, very strong-minded and powerful in their own right. Males like Zeus cheated on their wives all the time, but few females other than Aphrodite ever cheated on their husbands, and many of them actually stayed virgins. They made their own choices and their own lives. Demigods or heroes like Hercules were the children of godly parents and a human, and some were tragic heroes, but many were examples of masculine ideals. Hercules was definitely one of the most well-known, along with many, many others, for being bullheaded and just not popular with anybody, really. Although they have all of their traditions and myths and stories and folklore, not all of it is great. Now, all of these gods, of course, were created by the Greeks and organized by storytellers like Hesiod and Homer. For many, many years, these gods were worshipped, and they still are very, very relevant in the Greek world and the Greek culture today. Of course, it is still a culture that people love learning about, with the newest release of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I have put in 160-ish hours on, which has taught so many things that I didn't even know about Greek mythology, or has refreshed my memory on certain things. They put so much time and effort into actually really diving into that culture and making it historically correct and accurate. Of course, to make it a video game, they had to change some things up, but that's just the way it is in the media. There are plenty of other movies like 300, and I can't even think of all of them at the moment, but it is still a very, very, very popular pantheon to talk about in the world today. I know here in this household, we definitely support Greek life as well as Roman, don't get me wrong, but we have a statue of Athena that is made out of bronze in our living room, and we have lots of other things. We actually are planning on doing a tribute to Poseidon before we get on our ferry to cross over to Newfoundland. And I'm really excited about it. I think it is so important, no matter what you choose to believe or who you choose to worship, that you do it with love and kindness and an open mind, because you never know what's out there and who might be watching you. I think that is kind of the best way and the most condensed version of Greek mythology 101 and a little bit of an oversight into everything that's happened. Of course, like I said many times throughout this video, I am more than willing to do an in-depth version of this, make it a series, what have you. I'm down to do it. Please leave me a comment down below if you want to see that happen. And if there are any gods or goddesses that you want me to actually talk about or check out. There are so many, ranging from Thanatos that I mentioned earlier, Hypnos, to so many others like all of Poseidon's children, and lots of smaller sections of the Greek world to discover. So I think that is it for now, because I could probably ramble on for a very, very long time. I love you guys all so very much. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, like this video if you haven't already. It means so very much to me, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.